Welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. It's potluck time, the part of the show where each of us brings a story to the table, just like you would bring a dish to a potluck dinner, because we do that all the time. Carl Higbee, you like to cook at home.
Okay,
What did you bring on the road?
Bill de Blasio has struck again with a $35 million plan to retrain all of the New York City Police Department. And now you have to take a step
Can you
back.
repeat that number? I'm sorry.
$35 million.
Really?
Yeah, he has spent of New York City tax money to retrain all the police officers to say that now, when you're in a stressful situation, you need to step back, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and calm down. And and these cops are mandated to go to these retraining classes after their 8, 10, 12, 13-hour shifts. So they're falling asleep in the class anyway, and the cops are like, this is ridiculous.
Well, at least they're calm, right?
They're calm, their eyes are closed.
Yeah, but are they calm, or is it getting them more upset that they're wasting their time?
Really, it is a bureaucratic load of junk is what it is. Wow. It's a CYA for de Blasio to say, you know what, we retrained them, now, you know, all the stuff that happened with the Gardner case and everything is you know, we dealt with it.
But is that the appropriate retraining?
I want to practice my transcendental meditation at this moment.
Yeah.
Do you have a mantra?
This is the mayor.
De Blasio doesn't really have it very together. I'm sorry.
Well, we can agree on that.
$35 million to tell him to breathe?
There's got to be some meditation training or something
I tell you
involved
what,
in that.
I don't know what it is, but you know, give me half of that, I'm sure I'll solve the
I
problem.
mean, yeah, half.
Right.
I'd have done it for a whole lot less than half.
You figure if you just put every police officer into New York Sports Club, because they got this $99.95 deal right now for like 6
it'd be
months.
cheaper.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and then you just take a yoga class.
Well,
I actually
actually,
assume
but
that
it's
would be
got
the
to,
same
you know,
thing.
the thing is, we're joking about it, but it's got to make these police officers feel like they're under attack. I mean, being trained to take a deep breath when you're dealing with criminals on the street who are
You will get
lacking
shot.
respect. Yeah.
I
There is
submit.
that.
I
Yeah.
submit that they felt like they'd been under attack
Oh,
since the
absolutely.
Garner case, when
Absolutely.
the mayor completely turned this thing upside down and said that he had to, since his son was a young boy, teach him how to be safe, not from gangs, not from criminals, but from the New York City Police Department.
I will say that I stand unequivocally with the New York City Police to not close their eyes and do not take deep breaths and deal with the situation as it presents
Well,
itself.
I'm definitely with you on the
Yeah.
don't close your
Right.
eyes.
Yeah.
Somehow that strikes me as bad advice.
Neither
with a
one
cop.
of those are appropriate in the,
Yeah.
in the conflict moment.
Interesting. Speaking of conflict moments, culinary moment right now, and it's your
My potluck
time.
piece?
Yes, it is.
For a president who is supposed to be so transparent, yet again we're seeing today another example of his lack of transparency. Back in January, he was supposed to produce all of the correspondence and communication, email communications between himself and the IRS. He now says that he and his administration now say that it's not up to them, it's up to the IRS. The IRS has to wait until they're done with this Tea Party scandal because gosh knows they can't do two things at one time. So yet again, we're in this cycle of we're not going to get this information. Clearly there's a problem when people have been laid off and then rehired, when they were looking at people's private taxpayer information. I mean, it's just a complete travesty what's going on there.
You're cheating because you already know that I thought that was ridiculous that they're actually hiring back people that they fired.
On that, you know, they said that they couldn't do it because they had 90,000 email accounts to do it. I guarantee you 90,000 people at the IRS are not doing legitimate work. Take 10,000 of those people and have them go through
Yeah,
the
but
other
you're missing the best part. They have 90,000 email accounts,
Yeah.
except for the one that went
The one,
missing.
right.
Yeah, exactly. But
They
the
don't
other-
have 90,001.
The other thing is what she said about transparency is Barack Obama during his election campaign said democracy requires accountability and accountability requires transparency.
Well, they all say
and he
that.
has not displayed a single
Well,
bit of this.
the least transparent president I think that we've almost ever
Well, I
had.
don't know if I'd go that far.
It is pretty darn
Yeah.
close.
I think
mean,
that's
he
an
does not
exaggeration.
want to be second guessed.
But
Except for
I'll-
Watergate, maybe we'll go there. But.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I was gonna say.
I was 2 at the time, Rick.
But-
What was
well,
Watergate
I
like?
actually remember.
I wasn't
it
even a zygote,
extremely
so-
well.
There was- right.
And let me say with absolute certainty that the Nixon
He's less
administration
transparent.
was not
I
the
will-
most
I will give you
transparent.
that.
True.
Now, look, I mean, this is a weird thing with this White House now and the IRS because on the whole scandal, right?
Right. Which
it's
one?
never gotten, well, the IRS scandal.
Right.
It's never gotten to the White House. And yet they're behaving in a way that makes you think they must have something to hide.
And that's the problem.
And I don't understand why, except I think at this point they're just running the scandal clock down.
Well, that's what they're trying to
So,
do, but in
yeah.
the meantime, they're losing any bit of trust that they had from the American people.
But what people forget, and they're allowing them to forget, is the IRS works for us,
That's
for
right.
the taxpayers. They are
Yes.
our employees. Why are we not getting our information?
Heather, I don't know if they care if they're losing the trust of the American people, because Rick said it perfectly. This is four corners in old college basketball, Dean Smith. They're just running the
Running it
clock
out.
down
Yeah.
and just hope, you know what?
But that's a long clock to run out. It's not like we're that close.
21 months, I
Closer
guess.
That's a
than you
long
think.
time.
Why is it that civil servants act neither civil nor act like servants when I mean it's just
Can I
like
write that down?
Ooh, that's a bumper sticker right
there
there.
you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I mean you've been to the DMV, right?
It's like a leper
Sadly,
you
colony
go.
down
Although
there.
you want to know something, the DMV, I hope they're watching, the DMV in New York functioned beautifully. DMV in California,
bad rap.
not so good.
Yeah.
Connecticut, you better go to the DMV on spring break and camp out there because
Yeah,
you can't
see,
get
that's how it
anything
is in
done.
Yeah, see, I
California.
think it depends where you
Not
are, because
here.
they get a bad rap.
I
think
got
at
through
some
here
times
really
you
easy.
can- yeah.
It depends on where you go, and depends on which DMV. When I went to go get my moped license, for instance, this weekend,
Okay.
things went swimmingly. So you never really quite know. Anyway, when we come back, we will have more potluck, including mine, and you're going to love it. And a little bit later, it's time for Yay or Nay. Critical acclaim around that segment, and you're going to have to stick around for that one. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the show, everybody. We are in the middle of our potluck. Rick Unger, you are the third course.
So while we've been talking about the IRS, there is a fascinating, at least I think it's fascinating, poll out today that tells us that 68% of Americans think that wealthy people pay too little in taxes, and 60% who believe that the middle class pays too much in taxes. This takes me to one of my favorite subjects. If Americans feel this way, that it's not fair, is it time for the flat tax? That's my
Flat tax.
question to you.
That's a Forbes idea. Who would write for that?
That's, I am, well, wait a second. Not only, I hardly know what to say to that. Not only do I write for Forbes, but my fearless leader and my friend, Steve Forbes, is the godfather of the flat tax. And I'm curious what you guys think, because I have certain feelings about the flat tax.
I'm pro flat tax.
Okay.
10% across the board, no matter how much you make, with a maximum of 50,000 deductions.
You know,
Heather?
I would have agreed with that
Well, see,
without
wait, wait, wait.
hesitation.
You just added deductions.
Deductions, yeah.
That's not a flat tax now.
Well, I think there needs to be we need to meet in the middle on there, because like a family who makes $45,000 a year, guess what? They should be eligible for up to that $50,000 or whatever.
So what you're
But-
really
but
saying
see-
is put a base in where the flat tax
Yeah,
begins.
so if you
But
make a
then,
million.
did you read the article this weekend in the Wall Street Journal
Yes.
about where you live has such an impact on
Yes.
how much you can spend? And so then you're starting to talk about, well, if you have a family, well, if you live in a certain area, if you live in New York, it's less money than if you're living in Kansas or something. So I think that it's easy to say, yes, I'm all for a flat tax until you start thinking about those little minor
Here's the other
adjustments.
side to that argument. It's a great argument. The other side of it is if you're living in New York and cost of living is higher, you're probably getting paid more for the same job. Here's my biggest concern. I'd like you all to respond to it. How do we know that we won't see the same thing happen that happened with the progressive tax, which is special interests step in and they create a 75,000 page IRS code because they've got special favors? How do you assure me that they won't do the same thing and start messing with the flat tax?
Well, Thomas Jefferson said, should the laws become so arduous that the people cannot understand them, they become invalid. And I believe that to be a fair point.
But how do you do with the flat tax and keep that from happening?
When I ran for Congress, I said, if I get it there, I'm going to propose a tax bill that is one page. And you add that in because I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, where houses are very expensive, but property taxes are fairly low. Stanford, one town over, has lower expenses for houses, but much higher property tax. So in a 30-year mortgage, you end up paying more in Stanford than you do in Greenwich.
Right.
So, I mean,
But I don't know that there's guarantees, but you have to, I mean, when you're going forward with a flat tax, the idea is that it's not going to turn into this 9 million page
Except that it
document.
will, and this is my problem. I think you need those guarantees because otherwise it doesn't end up a flat tax. If special interests step in and start cutting breaks for this industry and that industry, and if you buy this or that or a house or whatever, then it's no longer a flat tax. It becomes more beneficial to some people than others.
Okay.
I don't know how you protect against that.
So in 2016, if you want to stand out as a candidate, why not run back on this again like Mr. Forbes did in, 96?
I think you could,
think
but
I
I think
see
you
that.
have to be able to answer that question. How do you guarantee that a future Congress or a powerful member of Congress who's getting subsidized or getting funded by a particular industry isn't going to go
propose
I
a
think
bill
the answer
to
is you
keep,
can't.
to keep the issue or to keep the actual bill under X pages, under 5 pages.
Well, it's not just the page. Well,
Yeah.
if you want to add one, you got to subtract one.
But can you continue that forever? Because that can be changed by any Congress.
I mean,
in the
Rand
future.
Paul tried to pass a bill that said we have to read the bills before we vote on them, and
Well,
he was
I-
laughed at.
Yeah, I actually like that.
never do
That's
that.
right, not a
Come on.
bad idea.
Anyway, to be continued, I
Yeah,
think.
it's to me a
very
fascinating subject.
valid argument. Anyway, it's my turn, and I want to talk about the Bill O'Reilly controversy. Obviously, this is one that is politically and personally motivated. First, before we go to the side of O'Reilly, just my quick take on this whole thing. Wrote a column about it over the weekend. The two people that have come to the forefront as far as accusations against O'Reilly, obviously the gentleman who wrote the article about Mr. O'Reilly's time in Argentina in 1982 covering the Falklands War. His name is David Korn. He writes for Mother Jones. Mr. Korn has won a Polk Award. It's not like he's some blogger in a basement. However, was employed by Fox News from 2001 to 2008 and then didn't have his contract renewed and ever since has been a contributor for MSNBC while writing for a niche liberal website that likes to attack Fox News on a daily basis. So when we look at motive, he might have a little bit. And then Eric Enberg, who has come forward, who was a former CBS colleague of Bill O'Reilly, he has said over the weekend on CNN that no shots were fired. He didn't hear any sirens going off, and it was a relatively tame riot. Do we have a video of that, guys, or no? We do? Let's roll that.
For which they fought.
Okay, that's...
What's that?
Okay, come back to me, guys. Sorry. Anyway, point being that if you go to the CBS News website, you would see, and they have it posted up on there, a video now of the O'Reilly report from Argentina in 1982. And believe you me, you will see shots being fired. You will see sirens going off. You will see buses being set ablaze. You will see people being carried off unconscious into ambulances. In other words, even though, if we're playing with semantics, Bill O'Reilly, like most other reporters covering that war, wasn't in a war zone on the Falklands. Right after that surrender in Buenos Aires, it sure as heck looked like one, and anybody who's going to say that he's another Brian Williams is out of their mind. Anyway, I only get the last word on that. Up next, yay or nay, don't go anyway, Daily Wrap, Newsmax TV.